now, right? I mean, you've got people that know how to box, but when they actually get in here, they're not looking like this level of boxing.
I feel like it's a time thing. Boxing's been around so much longer. It's been mainstream for so much longer. You have these old school coaches who have that old school way. You see them a lot in USA Boxing. You run into them because they've got young guys fighting. They're training people from the time they're kids, which is how you see most of the champions come about.
Well, the other thing is, if we're talking MMA too, we're talking that because later in the event we've got MMA fights, but boxing is a part of MMA. Doesn't mean those guys are masters of boxing, and that's what we're seeing with all these MMA guys going in fighting Tyson Furies and Floyd Mayweathers and stuff. You're seeing a big difference in skill level, and that's what I mean on that one. Like, look, those MMA gyms can box and they enter this, but there is a vast difference between real boxing and MMA boxing.
Stepping into the ring out of House of Best Kept Secrets again, Ricardo Ortiz. You see they've got such a dominant group of young guys coming out of there. I think they plan on doing big things in this sport. Guillermo is such a good leader there. He's got the right mindset as a coach.
Yeah.
Ton of respect for those guys and what they're doing up in Lexington.
It's going to be an interesting fight.
They came from 4 Seasons as well.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Interesting. So I'm assuming this Charleston Boxing Club, that might be the place down by me, the King Center. Do you know, Elijah, by chance?
No, I don't know much about any of the boxing gyms in Charleston. I heard Butch Hiles was the only gym worth lying.
Yeah, that's what we would like to believe, right? But I believe this might be them, judging by Debo in the corner there. And they're very talented. So the reason I want to bring them up is Charleston, they give a free place to train for anybody, which means they're helping kids get off the street, people that can't afford to train, and they're giving them a place and a home and an opportunity. So they're doing great things over there.
I've seen Mr. Landon compete before. I've gotten to call one of his fights before back in Pikeville. He fought, and he can box. That guy can box. He came up short in that one. And then he fought again. I know he fought Jacob LeMaster in boxing.
Oh, yeah.
And Jacob got the better of him, but he's a good fighter. I think his cardio was the issue last time I saw him compete.
It definitely has.
And he looks in better shape now.
Looks in good shape, but it did not see a snap on his punches there as opposed to what I'm seeing from Ricardo here.
I'd like to see Ricardo just make a little space.
Exactly what I was thinking, Elijah. Now, the last fight, we had two guys who measured the distance with their jab, and now we have a fight where two guys are just coming right at each other. And
this
looks a little sloppy.
Ricardo's had 5 fights. He's the more seasoned veteran, but you see these guys are a little more.
Well, maybe he touched that, after I said that maybe Almeida didn't have any power there, I noticed that right hand go a little bit behind the ear, and Ricardo looked like he's a little confused. Now, listen. I made a comment on the last one. I loved how they were throwing punches off the clinch. This kind of shows where their comedy comes from. Those guys are both very funny, very good commercials. But back to the action here. We'll see what this break did and who comes out in advantage.
These guys are putting on an insane pace, but not doing much with it.
No.
It's a lot of wasted energy here.
Again, I do not like the break for the clinch and putting your hands up. Was it Tito Trinidad and Floyd Mayweather where they did that and Floyd Mayweather just knocked him out? I mean, that's why you kind of don't do that. You got to keep your hands up at all times. Say, put your hands up. Don't do this. Or one time somebody's going to punch you in the face, right?
Landon landed some good body shots there. I think he's landing the better shots so far, but it's honestly, it's a hard one to score.
That was a good uppercut by Landon there. Elijah hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of rabbit punches or soft punches here. And for the judges, I'm sure those are hard to score.
Well, they don't score. From my understanding of USA Boxing scoring, if you're not landing a clean punch, they're not going to score it. It's like it didn't happen.
Yeah, and that's another good point. A lot of times on these USA Boxing cards or even Olympics, they'll have a white part of the glove on the front, and that's how you know you scored a punch. It has to be the clean. If you're landing with those palms and those short rabbit punch hooks, those do not score. It has to be with the white part of the glove.
Even some of the punches in the last fight that Gonzalez was throwing, the looping shots, I don't think they score those.
No.
And even though they're effective, they do damage.
Yes, and that's a solid point, which is, again, why, when you have a mixed crowd and maybe they're watching, they don't understand how somebody won a round or come across. It is entirely different scoring.
Well, that's why you see it. It's when you see a fight that's super close, you'll see it go to the decision. Sometimes people are confused by it when it's USA Boxing because you think the guy who did the most damage won, obviously, but that's not always the case with USA Boxing.
Yeah.
It's the guy who looks like the cleaner boxer. It's
Absolutely.
the guy who lands the more efficient shots.
And, and honestly, that's good. Because, I went to some USA Boxing fights they had in West Virginia, and there for a while, they were turning into the tough man / rough and rowdy fights, right?
I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to cultivate actual boxers, technical fighters.
And I'm glad they made that change because there's already that event. So it doesn't matter, if somebody likes it or doesn't like it. That's a style of fighting, and this is a style of fighting,
Well,
and the two should be separate.
How many tough man fighters, how many rough and rowdy fighters have we ever seen go on to win a world championship?
Yeah, not many.
Compared to how many USA Boxing fighters you've seen, and I'm sure there have been quite a few because that's the path.
Yeah, that is the path. Yeah, they all are. So, slowing down in the action right here, but it's been a lot of action. Like, so maybe the shots aren't as clean as the last fight, but you know what? They're giving all they've got. That was a great uppercut.
This is a tough fight. It's just a fight that we can talk a lot about efficiency.
Yes.
And
again,
they're fighting hard. They're fighting at a crazy pace, but it's a pace I think that they could adjust.
Yes.
And
again, and you kind of done a really good job with everything you said, but it is efficiency. So if you're just throwing a bunch of wild stuff and it's not landing, or it's landing and it's not doing any damage, it's not scoring, then why are you throwing it?
Straight right by Landon, but misses. That's wasted energy. That's an efficiency problem.
Well, look at those jabs. That's beautiful. That is real boxing right there, but he should have followed it up.
Not only doubling up, tripling up, and quadrupling up on that jab.
Now Ricardo, is showing a great amount of boxing skill, great head movement, great jabs, but I'm just not seeing a lot more. It's showing off a lot, right? But Landon's coming in there with some just straightforward shots.
These are two guys, though, that you see, if just a couple things clicked for them, they'd both be excellent fighters.
Yes, absolutely.
Because they have the tools. You can see it. They know how to box.
They sure do. Both very, very,
I
very
saw that in
fights.
Landon the first time I saw him fight. I was like, this guy knows boxing. He looked like the better boxer in that fight. He lost against a guy that was younger, more athletic, and just put a pace on him. And it was hard to withstand that young stud athlete. But he was the more efficient boxer in that fight, the better boxer.
One thing I knew, again, I did some USA boxing. I'll tell you one thing that people don't take account for is, and you kind of said it earlier, if you don't have the right distance, it's kind of hard to show your boxing, right? So if you have a guy that's staying in your face and taking the distance away and just kind of making it a fight, then the better boxer is not going to win the fight.
I learned that. I've only boxed twice. My second boxing match, I went in there against a guy who was not a clean boxer. He was a brawler, and he was always right there. And it was so strange because I'm used to, when you're sparring, you're boxing with guys. So you have space to work. He gave me no space, and it was difficult to deal with. It's something that's very strange.
It's very difficult, and the one thing that used to catch me a lot because I was a taller fighter is I would push the guy off so I can land punches, and then the ref would always call me for pushing. So
my problem is I'm not smart enough to take a step back.
Yes, yeah.
That's a big thing fighters, I think newer fighters don't learn. They think they constantly need to be coming forward.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to sit back.
Exactly.
And let them come to you.
And it's easiest to fight forward, right? It's harder to fight going backwards. It's hard. That's why there's only one Chuck Liddell, right? It's harder to land those punches.
Well, we saw in the last fight, Ashton Bray was catching Gonzalez coming in. That's what he's doing. He stepped back, found his shot. These guys are not stepping back. They're staying right in each other's faces. Nobody's giving any ground because they're tough guys.
Yes. But that's also why we're kind of not seeing the hard shots land because they're so close to each other that when the shots do land, they're kind of half a shot. They're not at the end of the punch.
And you have to fight tough. You have to fight aggressive, but you also have to be smart.
Yes.
That's the thing we're not seeing. This is a great fight, though, in a war. And the crowd is really getting into it.
Again, if I was, I hate to keep saying this, but if I was Landon's coach, I'd just every time he puts his hand up, just punch him in the face. I'm sorry. He's got to quit. Right now, the ref's not telling him to do nothing.
Yeah, hit him.
Hit him. That's what his coach is saying. Let him do it again. It is terrible, terrible for him to be doing that.
He's very tired, though.
Yeah.
Landon, in between rounds there, was really breathing hard. He's showing a lot of grit, though. He's not slowed down.
This is going to be a hard 30 seconds here.
Why are you waiting? It's Coach Yells trying to set a fire under his ass a little bit, get him moving. He knows this fight's so close.
There he goes. There we go. Look at that.
Man. Beautiful job there by Ortiz at the end. Big flurry. Yes. I think he stole the end of that round for sure.
Yeah, hats off to them. They did that for the crowd. Good for them.
And the crowd's definitely responding to that one. It's the loudest this place has gotten so far. I'm sure it's going to get crazy before the end of the night.
Heck of a fight. Definitely well-coached guys. It's definitely close, right? I'm not even going to say.
I can't score it.
Yeah.
It's too close to call for me. Both guys had their moments. I would be happy with a draw. There's a lot of fights that I'd be happy with a draw. This is one of them.
Yeah.
Because I don't think either guy hurt the other more than, I don't think anybody had that standout moment where it's like, oh, yeah, he won that fight.
Yeah, it's definitely even.
They both had their moments here.
Yeah.
And that was a great fight.
It really was.
Despite, some of the criticisms we had, that was an incredible fight.
And it's really not criticism. It's just saying what they could do to make some improvements.
Yeah, that's what I think. Both these guys have insane amounts of potential, and just a couple things need to change where they could really start picking up a bunch of wins.
Was it unanimous decision, huh?
Ricardo Ortiz out of House of Best Kept Secrets takes that one in a very, very gritty, hard-won fight.
Yeah. And I'm not surprised, at the thing. I would say if, again, we're talking during the fight, but a little bit more speed out of Ricardo, right? He looked a little bit more efficient.